Otherwise, you have 5 people saying the same thing. This way you have one person, and they might get 25 minutes. They may not use the entire 25 minutes, but they represent that group. So that, again, the board can say, okay, all of you are here on this one topic. Designate a spokesperson, and that person will have all the time. That's one way to do that also. And again, and don't know if there's any other questions the board might have.
There was one, Kathleen started all this on the basis that there was going to be a discussion of Robert's Rules of Order. And since 2000, and God, I don't know how long, I think it was back in Dora's era, that Robert's Rules were specifically eliminated from being pertinent.
Formally adopted, correct?
Yes, yes. I guess the question is, if it's going to come up that we're going to talk about it, I'd like to see somebody go through and see the pros and cons of Robert's Rules of Order for this, because it could get hairy, immensely hairy.
Yeah, and that's why, again, it says that they're not formally adopted, may be utilized as guidelines. And the board can say, for example, on the motion to table, that has preference and no debate. That's, I think it's a good guideline for the board to use without having to formalize it in here. And the whole idea, one area you may want to think about is motions for reconsideration. The Robert's Rules of Order has very tight criteria for reconsideration. Typically, it has to be before the end of the meeting at which the item was voted on. But what I've seen typically in local governments involving reconsideration requests is that a party on the prevailing side of an action has the ability to move for reconsideration within a window of time.
Usually the same meeting.
Yeah, or even after the meeting, but within a window of time. That's what Collier County does. Collier County, interestingly enough, has 2 rules of reconsideration. One involving zoning and land use matters, and one just generally. And the one just generally says it can be reconsidered by any member on the prevailing side of the action, provided that commissioner provides a memo to the manager within X number of days of the action taking place, and it gets put on the next agenda for reconsideration. But again, Robert's Rule says it has to be at the same meeting.
Yeah.
But there can be some flexibility. So that might be an area for the board to discuss.
I want to disagree with my esteemed colleague, Mr. Tinkle. I have personal experience. I was the treasurer and parliamentarian of a 7-member public board in another state for 20 years. And it is not that difficult to keep a board in line with Robert's Rules newly revised. As long as you want to keep them, and as long as you don't allow the rules on reconsideration and all of that business to take precedence over the orderly conduct of the business of the meeting. It's not that tough.
Yeah, what the board could do, and possibly have a conversation with Mr. Guy, is that, I'll call it the basic procedural aspects, such as the motions for reconsideration or motion to table, that those could be put in here, placed in here, and then the board can use the rest of it as guidelines. So it confirm that X, Y, and Z aspects of Robert's Rules will be the guidelines to use.
Well, it was
Definitely.
it was definitively taken out years ago, and somebody did it for some reason, but I was never a party to it.
And I had an argument on my first meeting at this board with that member about the way the meeting was being conducted, and he said, quote, "We don't follow Roberts, we do anything we want to do." He's not listening.
And knowing that gentleman, he was telling the truth.
Well, we've made a lot of progress since that gentleman was on the board, and I'm glad of it.
And again, the choice could be the board could say, we'll take select portions of Robert rules and adopt them as our rules, and or modify them, like the reconsideration one, if the board wants to have more flexible reconsideration. And if the board's pleasure, I can work with Mr. Guy on that.
Mrs. Flaherty, do you have a comment?
I do have, thank you. Okay, on page 21?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you finished?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, all right. I really wanted to address two of these things, 3 and 4, okay? All right, each member shall address only the officer for recognition, and we don't seem to do that at this meeting, and that was one of the reasons I wanted us to look. People don't wait to be recognized by the chair, they kind of just ask their questions. So that's one of the reasons I would like that to stay in there, and interruptions, okay? All the boards I've been on, when the person is talking, they get to finish their conversation, and if somebody has something to add, they wait till they're finished and then add it, and so that's the other one that I really think is important to be in here, that person gets to finish their conversation. And when they're asking a question to somebody, nobody else should answer that but the person at the, if I'm asking Mr. Bloom a question, okay, sorry, Mr. Bloom, I would expect that he get the answer so that it's official and not somebody else, so those were my concerns. Okay, thank you.
Very good. And what this also does along that same line is that when members of the public come up and have an issue with the board, as opposed to having dialogue and back and forth among the staff I think it's always best addressed to the chair. And then the chair can direct the staff person to address the question or the item. That helps too. But again, that's the chair and the board's prerogative how to handle that.
Mr. Banks?
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly simple for me. I think we have somewhat of an informal environment, for the most case. And I think if there is an opportunity, it's really for the chair to look at what we need to adopt in order for that person to effectively run the meeting and maintain order. But I also think there's opportunity from the board, if there's things that we need to institute that will better enable us to participate in the meeting. And I don't object with your two, what was it,
You
four?
object with what, please?
I don't object at all with Kathleen's recommendation around, what was it, 3 and 4? And to be honest, I'm probably the most guilty of those. And it's not out of lack of respect by any means, it's just, you know, because we're informal, sometimes we take advantage of that. But I do think that there is opportunities to improve, you know, to maintain some consistency. I don't think we need to adopt formally Robert's rules, but I have no problem with identifying areas of opportunity and implementing those as we go forward. Because I think we, anything to help us run more smoothly and to maintain order, which I don't think we're disorderly by any means, but that's fine.
Anyone else have any comments?
No, Robert's rules are set up primarily to protect the interests of the minority. And as long as the chair recognizes that and recognizes members to make their statements in an order that recognizes the minority as well as the majority on an issue, we shouldn't have any problem.
And I don't have any problem with using Robert's Rules of Order as a guideline. I think we have done that. We probably do talk over each other at times when we shouldn't, and when someone is given the floor, just to be a little bit more respectful that they get to finish their statement before the next person is recognized. I guess that's the real main issue.
Permission to speak. Permission to speak. So I think a quick win here would be for us to agree, let's start implementing at least those two. Be recognized before we speak, across the board. I mean, that would be a quick win, and I don't think anyone would disagree with that. And then anything else, I think we can, probably address it if there's other recommendations that anyone has that we could look to adopt those.
And I try to look back and forth and make sure everybody gets a chance to speak, but if I'm remiss, just throw a paper wad at me. Yes,
And
Mrs.
if anybody would like, they can borrow my Robert's rules.
I have plenty of like reading paper.
Madam Chairman, if I may, just one,
Yes, go
some clarification, just one item on the reconsideration aspect. What I've seen, just to list out, and we can all steer me down or get mad, is that some organizations will clarify, again, when a reconsideration can take place, that it can be after the meeting, provided member was sent within a certain time frame. And then those organizations will also say that a motion for reconsideration, if it's once made or considered, that there can be no further reconsideration of that topic. by the group or committee, and I've seen that too, so I don't know if the chair of the board want me to work with Mr. Guy to come up with some, I'll call it, not all Robert's rules, but specific sections, maybe the reconsideration section.
I have, are you willing to do that, Mr. Guy?
Yeah.
Okay, appreciate it, thank you very much. Thank you.
Mrs. Fair?
I just want to thank you, Attorney, for doing this for us.
No, thank you, it was also a good refresher for me, quite frankly, going through, some of the statutes and the updates, because again, the legislature slipped stuff in.
Every July.
Madam, could we take a 10-minute break, until we work out the beginning of the week?
Yes, please. Does anybody have anything else on the workshop? Okay, then I have a request, well, this is a motion. I don't think we need to.
When are we going to revisit what we just talked about? As far as commenting on this, first,
It's 3A, so it'll be after
no.
audience comments.
When are we, as a group, gonna take this out, or have it at the next workshop to further discuss?
What I would suggest possibly, oh, you mean the next portions of the rules?
No, what we just talked about. I
Uh,
want to read this and check all this stuff out.
Maybe the second meeting in November, would suggest.
I don't think it really needs to be a workshop again. You're gonna work with Mr. Guy and we bring back a document that we can,
Fine.
that we
I
can
just want to know when are we
actually-
Well,
gonna do this and we go to the next one.
I like the idea, what I suggest is that, we may have to do a notice of, that the board's engaging in the rulemaking process, and then in November have, a conversation about the revision to this, as to the consensus of the board, to then go to the second part of the rules. So, I think the idea of the second meeting in November is a good idea, if that's okay with the board. Thank you.
Okay, I have a request for a 10-minute break, so we'll do that.
And then we can do the next one. Always need a refresher for each. When I was a prosecutor, there was one judge that was very public sensitive. So for the civil district.